Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Browne here with you on this Friday edition of Sidelines. A lot to talk about today. It is the Friday Roundtable. Going to have Doug Dean checking in AU Dose in Birmingham in just a few minutes. Also, Ken Capps, Football Writers Association of America. A lot to talk about with him and Bo Carter, National Football Foundation. They'll also be checking in. Jerry Kerby will check in with some crazy stats and information for college and pro football. I mean, NFL started last night. Man, it's a great time of year. There'll be a lot more substantive games this weekend. Big word I'm using here. And I know if John Hartwell's watching, I'm wearing a collared shirt again down here in Orange Beach, Alabama. But we got a lot, to cover, a lot of different opinions and takes on these games. Texas comes to Alabama. A&M goes to Miami. I mean, you say, well, that's not two top 5, top 10 teams, but it's two programs trying to establish an identity. The U trying to get the momentum back from their glory days, which they've been trying to do for a long time. And Texas A&M under Jimbo Fisher in year 6 trying to do something. I mean, 8-5 was the standard with Kevin Sumlin, the previous coach, and it's been the norm with Jimbo. Despite all the talent, unlimited financial resources, high school recruiting in the state of Texas, number 1 most productive state in America for producing Division I players. What more could you ask for other than some undefeated seasons, a trip to Atlanta to play for the SEC championship, and a national championship or two? I'm telling you right now, I might have to take a break. No, here we go. We're going to be, I think the question with Jimbo and Bobby Petrino is, can they get along? I think they will. I think Jimbo wants to keep his job. And if I were him, golly, I'd say, Bobby, you do your thing. Go do your thing and make it happen. Because Bobby Petrino is one of the greatest offensive minds in college football, bar none. You got to let him do it. All right. We're here 6 days a week, 25 shows a month, over 300 shows a year. And we're ready to go. And I'm going to tell you right now, college football, the brand, the game, it's as good as it's ever been. The portal, NIL, all that stuff, it isn't going anywhere. We'll deal with it. And I'd say to anybody that questions, is college football going to make it? Go back and look at your history. We've been through multiple scandals, multiple changes, all the games being on TV. And I can tell you this, looking at what is happening in college football, we're going to be fine. The interest is there, as it's always been. The fans are there. Look at the crowds in the college football games. It's absolutely incredible. They're there. Season ticket sales are way up. So, again, Doug and Wendy Weiner, I think their names were, from Saturday Night Live, they can continue to try to push this national narrative that the fans aren't going to the games and that they don't care. But they're wrong. College football, we're social animals. It did not work when we tried to isolate and lock people up in their homes. Stay safe, stay home, stay alone, and go broke safely. That people are not going to go for that. People are going to be smart, If you've got the flu, if you're sick, don't go around people. Common sense. We don't need some bureaucrat telling us what to do. The same thing they're trying to do in college football. People will stay home. They'll watch the games on their TVs. They'll drink cold beer in their man caves. They may do that occasionally. The majority of people want to be around other people. You can always make cases for some people you don't want to be around. I mean, that's just the way it is. But college football, we're social animals. We get together. We're there to see our friends. You do a lot of business deals at college games, business relationships, clients, tremendous opportunities for people. And I think that, I look here at college football and I look at what's going on. We're in as good a shape as we've ever been. And I think that Doug Dean is with us right now. Looks like my assistant sent you the wrong link again. Doug, I'm sorry you couldn't get in there at first, but glad to have you here with us.
Mildred had one job.
One job Mildred had. She's screwed up twice on vacation. All she has to do is get the right link, Doug. And Mildred, I'll tell you one thing. This is the second time this has happened. You go on vacation and the help and everybody, it just falls apart. It's unbelievable. I mean, unbelievable.
Maybe it was some infiltrating Bama fan that just
it could have been.
Can't stand me and he wanted to sabotage the show.
No, but I mean, it's crazy. It was like somebody was the other day, she sent me a link and it was the link from the day before and nobody could get through.
Hey,
it may be the metal plate in her head. I could be it.
Hey, I will, because of the nature of rivalries, I will take a playful shot at the other guys once in a while, but I also be giving a compliment out. And I was on my John Deere tractor trying to get ahead of the brutal heat to bush hog some fields at 6 a.m. yesterday morning, and got out of there before 9 and got to work. But I listened to Gary on your show. What's his last name?
Gary Harris. Yeah.
Yeah. Gary's outstanding breaking down Alabama's roster, their strategy. And I thought he was spot on. And you chuckle. I like the way he put it. People are questioning Coach Saban right now.
Yeah.
The other guy's not trying to win in the toughest conference in the country.
Yeah.
Well, if you look at, he could have not three-peated, could have four-peated. If you look at that 2013 and was it 2014 year, as Gary said, he had to get kicked sixth to be knocked out of play. They would have beaten Florida State. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I think they would have. I remember what Oregon did to Florida State, 59-20 that year in the playoff. So yeah, I think, and smart football coaches will tell you, Nick Saban's not done yet.
No. I wouldn't bet on that.
No, and I think that his football team this year might resemble, and Rodney Orr, Tyler Insider, and Gary Harris have been talking with us a lot this year about that, 15, 16, 17, those type of teams, Doug. And you're great at breaking down and cutting through all the minutia and extrapolating the facts and the direction. But that's what I see Alabama and Kevin Steele. What did we talk about? Kevin Steele didn't get a football lobotomy, just like Brent Venables didn't at Oklahoma. They just got to get in there, put their system in, and they got players.
Let's talk for a second about the how the game is brought to us from TV broadcasters, analysts.
Yeah.
And you know what bugs me, Rob? And I don't want to make it let's bitch and moan Friday, but I'm gonna get this one out of the way. Right when college football is becoming radically transformed, we think eventually in such a way that it won't compromise the great product, but it's definitely different. There's some adaptations. You've preached about that early and often. But the big corporations with the deep pockets, what are they doing? Laying off sports analysts. And I'm sure we could all have a list of a few that we don't mind that they're gone. I don't like anybody to lose their job, but they're cutting the talent and they're slashing travel budgets and asking these analysts, instead of being at the game, which is an entire different observation to sit in their office with a laptop and be able to report the same way. They'll write things about the plays that occurred, but they'll completely miss the atmosphere and the vibe, and that those beads of sweat on a quarterback's brow when he's at the sideline talking to his coach on 4th and goal at the 1 with 20 left. I mean, it's a shame that corporations didn't do their job to protect their earnings, and they're reacting by detracting from the resources that go into bringing coverage to us.
I totally agree. That is a great take, and I've been noticing sticking these guys in these sterile rooms in their bathrooms or their garages, trying to get them to report. That is ridiculous, and they've wasted money. They've blown a lot of money, but they've getting rid of Wojciechowski, David Pollock. These guys know football, and they bring a lot to the table. And then they keep some people on there that they're just loud and obnoxious, but they don't make any good points. And the problem is, you go back, it's the 3 city blocks. It's the 3 city blocks and 6 multinational corporations that are trying to tell us all how to think, and it ain't working.
Can we get on to football, Rob?
Absolutely.
Okay. You bring me on here predominantly to say what is there to know or understand about Auburn. Intel can be dangerous, and you can have a good source, and they're right today. A few hours passes, and the facts on the ground change, and suddenly your source was wrong, and you look like a fool. But I do believe that Jarquez Hunter is, first of all, he's on the trip, and I think that he's set to be clear to play. That's not based on official statements coming out of Auburn Athletics or University, but I do trust my sources on that. And that is bad news if you're a Cal Golden Bear, even though they've got a tremendous running back, Jaden Ott, who has a little bit mouthy this week. I noticed. I don't have a problem with the statements he made that, hey, the name Auburn is big, but when I watch film, they don't seem to align with the big Auburn name. If I'm Hugh Freeze, look, that's not really heavy bulletin board fodder, but I'm still going to pregame use that to say, do you guys think the Auburn name means real football? Apparently, our opponent questions whether we are going to play real physical, in-your-face, high-tempo, face-melter offense. Let's see what we can do about the Auburn name here in Berkeley, California.
I like that comment. That's the kind of stuff that you don't need motivation. Some players' comments, it should come from within, but that certainly can add fuel to the fire.
And specific to that game, by the way, if you make me pick, and as if anyone would care what my pick in the big marquee game, Alabama hosting Texas, I'm excited about that because it gives you a sneak preview. It's a movie teaser, Rob, of how Texas and in a different way, Oklahoma will adapt and raise their competitive fire to be able to compete at the highest levels in the SEC starting next year. I don't think Texas is quite ready for that. The Alabama team I saw, for the most part, lived up to billing against Middle Tennessee. By that, I mean, if it's true, and I think Gary backed this up, that he intends to be physical on both sides of the ball, be run heavy, but also ask his quarterback to deliver when they load the box, which everybody's going to have to load the box against Alabama. Texas will inevitably walk safeties up, and that's when I think Alabama will hit them on some big strikes that they're not looking for. So I do like Alabama double-digit in that one. But moving to this Auburn, to me, fascinating match of Auburn going cross-country to Cal. I'm glad that the people that handle logistics and nutrition and the physical well-being of the players had the wisdom to get out there late last night, get some sleep. They've got all day today to acclimate and all day tomorrow. There are some things I can tell you I'm 100% certain about in this game. Auburn, Peyton Thorne will, by design, target Rivaldo Fairweather, this tight end that was impossible to cover in one-on-one matchups all fall camp. And I think there's a reason he didn't get a single target last Saturday. In fact, Freeze talked about we didn't show that much in the passing game. But if in fact Jarquez Hunter's good to go, you're crazy not to see it. Make their front stop the run game before you call pass plays that you may not need to, especially on early downs.
I think you're right. With Auburn, Doug, my concern is, and you can tell a lot even against UMass, that front seven. I mean, can they stop the run? You're not going to necessarily shut it down to nothing. Now, I know Cal held their opponent to like 42 yards rushing. You did a great job in the dose yesterday. I was reading it out on the beach. And with the front seven for Auburn, that's always been their trademark. I mean, they've always had this group, there's a lot of new guys in there and some guys that have got to step up, but going on a road game like this is the perfect time for it to happen. The defense that Ron Roberts runs, the creepers, where it's based on, is really good at screwing up RPOs.
Yeah. I read I think I threw this in the Dose newsletter yesterday toward the end because I found sometimes I like to give readers the perspective of the rival, the opponent.
Yeah.
And you've got homer partisan writers at every program because it's good for business, right? you get clicks and subscriptions. But I was amused at what I consider not even that big a debate, but these two programs, Cal and Auburn, arguably own the they would have to be the top two, maybe top three at least, of the biggest single walk-off dramatic plays in history. The play, as it's called, with the six laterals, Rob, the insanity of the marching band out on the field. I think a friggin' trombone player got mowed down at the goal line for the score. And that was an insane and as Elway said, maybe illegal play. The referees lost control of the game.
Yeah.
But it was what it was. But the writer in Berkeley he went through the kick six versus the play and broke it down. And not surprisingly, given his zip code, he gave the nod to that six lateral play, to which I said, that's cute. And that was an amazing play that got Cal the win in dramatic fashion, in desperation fashion. But if you look at the stakes, the ability of returning a field goal 100 yards against the GOAT coach team when both teams had a shot to make the national championship game, I don't see how anybody with a straight face could argue that the kick six is second to any other play.
Well, you were also right, as you said in the Dose. You had Stanford at 6-4 with John Elway as the quarterback, and Cal at 6-4. Two teams really going nowhere.
Or what?
And and then the kick six game, you had the number 1 and the number 4 ranked teams playing for the right to go to Atlanta in the SEC championship and ultimately to play in the college football national championship, the BCS championship as well. So that's how big a deal that was.
Rob, as you know, in my day job as a healthcare HR executive, and I want to do a promo on that. That's where the bills get paid. But I've had the good fortune over the years to be exposed to and trained in, certified in no small number of very scientifically validated human personality assessments.
Yeah.
My favorite is some guys based in Chattanooga called the Judgment Index, and oddly enough, one of their reports is an athletic competitiveness scoring, which I wish more SEC programs would kick the tires on and see if it would be useful to incorporate in how they select coaches, maybe even how they manage and develop recruits. But I'm getting to a point here. I'm watching from a distance, what we will call the emotional intelligence, the EQ of one Hugh Freeze. And he is absolutely impressing, if you ask me, Rob. He had the foresight to understand what was happening with his quarterback, Peyton Thorne, after he wore him out on one bad read. And a couple of plays later, Thorne was affected by that, pressured by that, and made a bad decision, partly in response to getting dressed down by his coach. So instead of Freeze saying, well, you screwed up twice, I'm going to make you run stadiums, or your QB2. And some coaches will do that. What did Freeze say? Freeze self-regulated and said, maybe to an extent, I'm the problem. I need to understand the psyche of my quarterback, and that doesn't make him a wuss. It just makes him a unique human being. And I thought that approach in 2023, especially with a quarterback, bodes well. And if I'm a talented QB out there, I think I'd want to play for a head coach like that.
Yeah, and I don't think that Peyton Thorne is by any means soft or immune from criticism. He's the son of a coach and grandson, but you're right. And I love these takes that you get, and I hope you can stay on with us, because we're going to have Jerry Kerby on in the next segment. And he is Jerry. Now, Jerry's in Audrey's family. He's married to her niece. He is a football savant on steroids with college, pro, really NFL. He breaks these games down like this, like what you just said. And also Ken Capps, Football Writers Association of America. He's in Tuscaloosa covering the game from Dallas, from Texas. He's a Texas grad, but he's going to be on. Bo Carter is going to be on. So we'll get into some great stuff. And I'm going to tell you, Doug, what you just said about Hugh Freeze, it doesn't mean he's soft or he's weak. It just means it doesn't matter any level. Steve Spurrier, listen to what he says about him coaching 30 years ago. He goes, I made a lot of mistakes with guys, and I learned as I went along. That right there may have been some of the best stuff you've said on the show.
Yeah. And Hugh's, every head coach is human. There'll come a game, perhaps, that Hugh's emotional intelligence he'll fail at it. His frailty will show. But what I've seen, it's only one game in, but we've got a lot of game film to watch him, how he works at Liberty and Ole Miss. And what I see is what I've always wanted. I don't ever see him needing to take a wad of double bubble chewing gum, Rob, and work that jaw. And I'll never forget, and I like many things about Malzahn, but when Gus wanted tempo to happen, he'd start, losing his chicken pecking on the sideline, losing his friggin' mind. And I think that transmits through your head coach's mind and body language and what he says and does. It transmits that anxiety to your team if you're not careful, because some of those players are going to be mentally hard, but not every one of them. And they need to feel like, okay, so what? It's 4th and 1. We got to get a stop here, or we've got to get a first down on 4th and 10. We know how to do it. Let's go execute. So I like that. What I'm seeing from Freeze, I would say, to me, a big question, and it goes really more to who will the real Cal stand up defensively. Last year, Rob, if you look at, speaking of red zone, Robbie, and I have a feeling one of these games, maybe it'll be tomorrow, you're going to see that all we're hearing is that we only use Robbie to run the ball in the red zone. Yeah. And they will pivot off of that somewhere in the game, and maybe we won't even be in the red zone. But what you're going to see, last year, Cal was 115th in touchdown percentage defensively when the teams are in the red zone. So Auburn, I think, will score a lot of points. I have to say, if I'm being objective, I look for Auburn to give up some points too, because Cal is, you go out there, you figure the team in the West Coast, whether they do it by ground or air, they know how to score points, and they sure showed that with 100 plays run against North Texas.
Yeah. Well, and you pointed out, Cal isn't new to football success. I mean, Jared Goff, quarterback in the NFL, Marshawn Lynch, beast mode. That guy, Aaron Rodgers. I mean, there's so damn many of them. Hey, go back, way back. Former Falcons quarterback, Joe would have loved him, Steve Bartkowski.
They were in the game with USC only a year ago, right?
Yeah.
So, of course, at the same time, Tulane beat USC. So I think I'm a Lincoln Riley fan, but I think he's probably going to have to go through changing the culture there, and he'd be better pretty quick before they get to the Big Ten.
Yeah, he better do it. They better learn to play defense, because they flat out will play it in the Big Ten. Doug, a couple more things before we take a break, and then we bring on. It's going to be a fun football panel. Again, I hope you can stay on with us, because Ken is in.
Yeah.
Okay, Ken's in Tuscaloosa and Bo's back at the fort in Carrollton, Texas, up near the Oklahoma border, Ken always says. But, Doug, this Auburn team taking a trip across the country. And Billy Roberts, who's a regular on the show a lot, he has to fly a lot from Atlanta out to Oracle headquarters in San Francisco. He said, once the wheels are up from Hartsfield Atlanta Airport, it's all podcasts. Sidelines, of course. That's a big deal to go that far. But they got out there early. I was talking with Smiley, one of my Sigma Nu fraternity brothers, yesterday. Smiley was taking the trip over to Alcatraz yesterday. He'd never been. And he said and one of Wilson's friends from Auburn is out there. There's a bunch of Auburn people making this trip. What the hell? Why not? At least we can go to the wineries and go to Alcatraz and see some football.
Hey, there's next time I get out there, I want to do it. There is a creepy, scary nighttime tour of Alcatraz. It would be like a scene from one of my favorite movies, The Rock.
I love it. Doug, that's a cool place. So you've been out there.
Oh yeah, but I have not done the Alcatraz tour. I look forward to doing that because it's popularized and made iconic in no small number of movies. Yeah,
going back to it, and a good comment by one of our viewers, Doug's point. Some people respond to a pat on the back, and others respond to a kick in the ass. If you pat me on the back, I will run through a wall for you. If you kick me in the seat, I will shut down and resent you. That's good insight from Doug. I'm serious. A lot of people are commenting. But me, I went to Catholic education, Christian Brothers High School. I learned you make a mistake once, that's understandable. Don't make it again.
Yeah, and you know what, Rob? Hey, if we don't have to, and I'm sorry, I tend to, my brain weaves its way into the Auburn encyclopedia of ball, and I certainly would want other guests to do their school just because you know more about it. But you only have to go to arguably the top 2 or 3, if not the greatest college athlete of all time, Bo Jackson. But you'll recall, Rob, Bo Jackson was a terrible practice player. And you get the wrong head coach. Coach Dyke could have said, I'm going to be a hard ass and I've got team rules. And if I see you loafing in practice, you're not getting on the field. And how would that have gone? We might not have ever learned much about who Bo Jackson was athletically.
Yeah, and I think about a great Tennessee player, Hubert Simpson, 1979, Vols 40, Notre Dame 17. He wasn't worth a lick as a practice player, but on game day, he came to life like a flower after some fresh rain and sunshine. All right, we're going to take a quick break, Doug. I know you just got a couple of minutes when we come back. Ken Capps, Football Writers Association of America, in the bottom there, wearing his double agent 007 black turtleneck Under Armour. There we go. Bo Carter, the great sage out in Texas. Jerry Kerby will be on with us. So we're going to take a quick break and be right back. Talk a few minutes with more with Doug Dean before he's got to go. But this is a great day.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
I know you got just a few minutes. These are a couple of my writing mentors. I love having them on. And Doug does the AU Dose in Birmingham. We've been talking about that Cal game. But Doug, now you got some questions you might want to ask this distinguished panel who are in Tuscaloosa and Dallas.
Yeah, I guess I'm going to let both of you you gentlemen, you sages, you wise observers of the great game of college football, I'm going to let you be an athletic director at a big-time program. Let's not go crazy here and say Alabama or Georgia, but a program that's got all the blue blood tradition, and you need to replace your coach. I could name a few in the SEC that are hot seats. I'm not going to do that. Leave that to the cynical media. But do you put prime time on your short list after what you're seeing, that he's changing the game and creating electricity, but not without controversy? Is Dion going to make your short list for consideration?
Can I let you lead off?
I knew you were going to do that, Bo. I knew you were going to do that. Sitting up there on the Oklahoma line, just sipping your coffee, and I knew you were going to do that. And I know I'm going to get some flack for saying this. By the way, I was in your great city yesterday in Birmingham, driving up here to T-Town. So looked really good, Doug. I hope I get to see you there sometime, live and in person. But I am going to put Prime on that list. Mm-hmm. And he is going to get that consideration, I can assure you, because he is changing the game. He needs to watch his mouth. I'll say that. I don't think you go around calling in this day and age, calling female reporters sweetheart and darling like he did after the TCU game at his press conference. And you don't need to be insulting big-time reporters that were there, because you're not going to win every game in that fashion. And one of these days you're going to get your butt kicked, and you're going to want those reporters to be a little nice to you. So he's got some things to learn on the press conference side of things. But he has a dynamic of coaching that hasn't been seen, if ever. So I think what it's going to come down to, and I have thought about this question this week, because I do live in Dallas, in Texas, unlike Bo, and I have thought about this, and it's just going to be whether if he would be acceptable to your fan base and to your big donors, because there are a lot of schools that would not accept his personality or the way he does business. Would you agree with me? Would you agree with me, Don?
Yeah, I would, and I want to hear our other guests' take on it too. But I think as AD, I've got to really behind the scenes see if I can get consensus about a genuine, open-minded dialogue and interview with Prime, and let him see if he can sell us that he would align with our culture. And I think the answer is not. He would not align with every culture, because he's going to open his mouth and say what he does not want to be restricted or bridled on that. I don't think so. It's got to be the right program. Right. He could work at an Ole Miss if Lane Kiffin can. Lane doesn't. Prime, and by the way, I'm not so sure Prime couldn't win it all at an Ole Miss, and maybe Kiffin can, for all I know. I hear the Ole Miss fans are really upbeat about what they've got this year, but let's let our other guest weigh in on the same question.
Yes, so 2 words of caution. Nebraska Saturday, that could be a little bit of a stumbling block.
Yes,
Matt Rule, I've talked to some Nebraska people. They're going to try to do the old World War II strategy, pinch and hold territory or whatever, and try to play really low-scoring defense again. Like they led the whole game and lost on a field goal to Minnesota last week. And the other thing, I'll be honest, I think he wants to get in the NFL. That's a big surmisal or whatever, but I believe his next move might be to an NFL team.
Oh, wow.
With the money and the prestige and just he's on prime time. He's prime stage every day. Yeah. So I don't know. Those are just 2 thoughts, but I agree with Ken. I think in a right situation, right deal, he could go. And if he gets the Ole Miss job, guys, Johnny Vaught will be spinning around in his grave. I guess.
Yeah.
The old conservative from TCU.
Yeah. And I'm gonna have to cut out after this, Rob. But you've got you're in good shape with these dudes. I think a year ago, ADs that were under pressure from fan base to consider Prime and shift the paradigm big time, which that's what he does, like bringing in 60 or 70 transfers or however many he had, 50. But the excuse to not interview him was he doesn't have any quality coaching experience. He does now.
Well, and I mean, I think he had at Jackson State. I mean, that's a program too that wasn't exactly in great form when he took it over, and look what he did there. And and I'm looking at it from the TCU sideline as well. I mean, there were a lot of bones to be picked with TCU last week in many different ways, both with Dion and Sonny Dykes, and also with his quarterback, his son, and Kendall Briles. There were so many underlying soap opera stories going on there that there was just so much emotion. And that was the other thing I was thinking about for this week with Nebraska and Colorado. Colorado has sold out all of their suites. I bet that hadn't happened in
ever
suites. And and I bet
tomorrow,
that
there's not going to be a Nebraska home game there either.
Right. Correct. No, that's right. Yeah, Nebraska fans are going to be standing out in the parking lot at their grills. They're not going to be able to go into the stadium and do a takeover like they usually do. But I mean, that place is going to be rocking tomorrow. I don't know if it'll be rocking as hard as we're going to be rocking here in Tuscaloosa with Alabama and Texas, but it's going to be close and I think that's the other thing you got to consider with Prime. The excitement that he can bring to the fan base, which also means that they're going to bring more money to the school.
Yeah.
So there's all kinds of different things to look at. And, heck, what's it cost to interview somebody? Nothing. A plane ticket.
Yeah.
I'm out, guys. Let's play some football.
Take care.
Doug, thank you so much. We'll talk later today. Appreciate it. Great stuff. I'm going to tell you what, Jerry Kerby's on with us now up in Clarksville, Tennessee. And Jerry's married to Audrey Mildred, a.k.a. Mildred when she makes a mistake, to Audrey's niece. And Jerry is a football Einstein. I mean, say savant, like people call me. But he watches every game, and the ones he doesn't watch, he watches them in the offseason and breaks them down. So, Jerry, we got Ken Capps, Football Writers Association of America, Bo Carter National Football Foundation, the Texas duo, kind of like Waylon and Willie of the sports writing world. But let's get your take real quick, and we'll kind of bounce this around. We're broadcasting live from Orange Beach, Alabama. I would give you the beautiful shot in the background, but the glare from the sunshine is such that it prohibits me doing that. But when the lighting is better later today, we'll be off the air. But anyway, Jerry, let's get your take real quick on a couple of things. One, Texas at Alabama. You watch a lot of football, and Texas and Alabama, two of the most tradition-rich programs in college football history. But what do you think is going to happen tomorrow night in Tuscaloosa?
It's going to be a hostile environment. I mean, College Game Day is going to be there. Pat McAfee is going to be there today. It's hard to win in Tuscaloosa, period. It doesn't matter what teams Alabama has. It's just a phenomenal, hostile environment, what they put on, especially when they score touchdowns and the lights go off and on blinking and stuff like that. I mean, it's just those little things. And then of course you got Nick Saban, the go to college football and I think Alabama still wins the game. I mean, I would give them probably a 2-touchdown advantage.
Wow. Now, do you think Sarkisian is a hell of an offensive coordinator? He helped recruit Jalen Milroe to Alabama. So he's going to know a lot of his tendencies. Any kind of odd angle before I throw it back to Ken and Bo, anything maybe that only a mind like yours who can break this stuff down in a unique way, any chance Texas beats Alabama and that first-year defense of Kevin Steele? Because they look a lot like Alabama 15, 16, and 17 on defense at least.
Oh, Absolutely. Yeah, if they turn the ball over and just and don't execute on third downs, that's a recipe. Or when they get in the red zone, like last year, they had to settle for field goals. You have to score touchdowns, and Texas has to score touchdowns when they're in the red zone to beat Alabama, to have a chance to upset them. Yes, everybody's always on upset alert. It's just, I think last year, I don't mean to have any excuses to Alabama. You got to realize when they have big games, they're usually at 2:30 and after 6 o'clock. Yeah. Well, that was 11 a.m. kickoff. They're not used to all that.
Yeah, that's the worst. Bo and Ken, 11 a.m. Austin, Texas. You might as well be on the flat iron skillet. That's a horrible time, Ken.
Yeah, it's kind of hot around that time. It was pretty hot last year.
Well,
but the weather's so nice here in Tuscaloosa, man. It's like 40 degrees cooler here than it is in Dallas right now.
107 yesterday in the power grid. Rob, we got to talk to you about Tennessee, and you and Kerby about Tennessee Valley Authority. We need we need to get our good governor, Vanderbilt alumnus, to import some power from TVA. We were in code red the other night. We almost lost the power system.
Lost the power grid.
Oh, wow. I'm telling
only
you,
in Texas.
Yeah, we're down here in OBA, Orange Beach, Alabama, looking out over Ono Island. And, it's nice down here. Actually, we had a nice breeze on the beach yesterday, watching a storm come in. And then we thought we were going to outsmart it. And all of a sudden it circled, it wrapped around, and Anaconda planned us. And Wilson and I had to run for cover. Audrey was waiting up there on the road. Thank God, because we got hammered anyway. But let me ask you this, Jerry. Looking at college football, from what you've seen, the changes, is this the game more complicated? Is it now, Nick Saban's going to be run heavy? I mean, as soon as everybody thinks it's all passes, 4 wides, 5 wides, empty set backfields, here goes the GOAT going the opposite way.
Yeah, that could be a recipe for disaster, because it's a passing league now these days, and everybody wants to go spread, air raid, and that's why Army went from a triple option to more of a spread now, because of that reason. And it's just like you got to adapt to the game now. Like teams that don't adapt, like Clemson, for example, they don't do no NIL no more. They're not doing that, and they're not recruiting out of transfer portal. That's why Clemson is so down now.
Yeah,
because of that.
Yeah. Well, Jerry, this is an interesting stat. We all saw on the Color TV Monday night. Ken, Bo, Jerry, I was looking through the neighbors. They had the blinds pulled up. Cable's too damn expensive. But anyway, I was watching it. On that roster for Clemson, gentlemen, ladies, gentlemen, and everybody in between, 56 4- and 5-star players on that Clemson roster. You know how many 4- and 5-star players they had on the Duke roster? 2. 2. The peace sign. Peace out. And they dominated them 27-6. I don't know, but Ken, I'll let you start with it. But you probably interviewed Dabo. I have not. I'm a big fan of his. I love his story, his whole life. I mean, what he's been through, what he's overcome. Is he someone who is so set in his ways he's not willing to change? I think he loves winning.
Well, yeah. I mean, when you're winning, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, that's right.
Right? That's a good Texas saying. But now it may be broke, so he may have to fix it. Yeah. Now let me give you a little side note here. Their starting quarterback at Clemson now, Cade Klubnik, is from the great city of Austin, Texas.
Yep.
And he's from Austin Westlake, which is the home of Drew Brees. Big high school, turning out great college and pro players, and coached by my good friend Todd Dodge. He just retired, and he was 6A, won like 6 state titles. Just an amazing guy. Anyway, Cade is going to be just fine. And he played fine. It wasn't. He didn't have a problem. But when you get down in the red zone, and just like the gentleman was saying, when you get down in the red zone and either don't get any points or have to settle for 3, you're going to lose.
Yeah.
And Mike Elko is a hell of a coach.
Yes.
God. And of course, it went back to our favorite thing that we like to talk about, like I talked about last year, Rob. Duke had to go storm their field.
Yeah.
I guess they're going to get a $50,000 fine from the ACC or something. But man, I just couldn't believe that they put up 28 points on Clemson. And the other thing I couldn't believe is that Clemson only scored 7.
Yeah.
So, and Dabo said it himself. He goes, I've never been in a game like this before.
Yeah.
Ever. So he's not a dummy. He's going to look at what needs to be changed. But as always has happened at Texas, and this is, Texas hadn't won the titles that Clemson has had, obviously, in the last 10 years. But, Texas gets all these 4- and 5-star players too, and then never wins a title, never wins a Big 12 championship, doesn't win a national championship. And Texas fans gripe about it all the time. How can we recruit all these great kids and yet not win the big one? So, and that's why Sark's there, quite frankly. He came straight from Alabama, to bring that Alabama magic to Texas. So, there are so many different soap operas and backstories going on for this game here tomorrow. I can't wait to talk about them later on in the show.
Yeah.
But Dabo's no dummy. He's going to change if he has to because he wants to keep winning, and he's a damn good coach.
Yeah, he is. Bo, you've seen coaches that have been successful, and then they had to change. Let's go back the late 60s. Platoon football changed. Coach Bryant had 3 bad years in a row. A lot of people thought the game, he's done. Well, some guy named Emery Ballard and him, they got the wishbone, and they come out on a Friday night, September of 1971, at the Coliseum in Los Angeles, the city of angels, the home of L.A. motorist Rodney King, I might add. But anyway, they come out in the pregame warm-ups running their traditional offense, and then they open up after kickoff running the wishbone, and they win 8 of the next 9 SEC titles and 3 national championships. So people will change if they want to keep winning.
Well, do you know, hey, Bo, tell them who taught Bear Bryant the wishbone.
Well, Emery Ballard, of course, they had the coaches come over. Bear Bryant and Darrell Royal were good friends. So they had the coaches come over, and Darrell Royal,
Coach Royal and Emery
amazingly gave his secret away. But
right, and look what happened.
Yeah.
I was going to say too, Rob, the Duke quarterbacks from Fairhope, Alabama, right down where you are, a really good.
Right here in Baldwin County.
He was a great basketball player. They mentioned on the telecast.
Right.
When Mike Krzyzewski talked to him on his recruiting visit, he said, I think they talked to him a little bit about playing both sports, but he's locked into football. And Ken hit it on the head, and Jerry, you guys too. Elko's a great coach, and he's been at Texas A&M for a couple of 3 years. And and funny, he played at Penn of all things, but he must be a sharp man. You look at that too, like the Vanderbilt beating Florida and Duke beating Clemson. The whole college football thing gets turned upside down by the transfer portal, and just the 85 scholarship limit still comes into bear.
Yeah. Jerry Kerby, looking at the teams we just talked about, I got another one I want to get your take on. Ole Miss is going to Tulane to play at Holman Stadium this weekend. Not a big crowd, and that stadium holds about 27,000. But Tulane won 11 games last year. They beat Southern Cal in the Cotton Bowl. Michael Pratt's back at quarterback. They're an original founding member of the Southeastern Conference. And by the way, Tulane, Sewanee, and Georgia Tech, by rules of the founding members, could still come back in the league anytime they want to. If Tulane keeps winning, they may meet number 17, Jerry Kerby.
Yeah, when I first moved to Mount Eagle, Tennessee, and everybody mentioned Swanee and how they destroyed the SEC, and I read on it like, holy cow, they were actually a great team. Like, wow. I mean, they had undefeated seasons, and I think I think they played 2 games in one weekend. They
5 games in 6 days.
Yeah, and they shut out. Like what? Yeah. Just getting back to that. I'm a SEC, homer. So I mean, I gotta go with Ole Miss.
You like them in that game,
huh?
You like them against Tulane?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Better players. I always look at the offensive, defensive line. I'm pretty sure Ole Miss probably outweighs them. So I mean, they could play bully ball with them too as well. And Dart, he's coming back too. So
yeah, they scored 73 last week against Mercer. Another one, Jerry, I got to ask you about. You watched Florida play, and we talk about teams making the most recovery from week 1 to week 2, but their offense looked like a used Edsel out there against Utah. As they say I love those guys up in the Northeast. They call it Utah, Auburn. Auburn spelled with an O, but Jerry, do you look for the Gators to turn things around? Because tomorrow we're going to have Buddy Martin, GatorbaitMedia.com on here, and he was madder than a dozen wet hens last weekend.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really compare that. I mean, Utah is a great team. I mean, the Pac-12. I mean, I think it's going to be the said yesterday. I mean, this is probably the best the Pac-12 has been in years. Yeah, and this is the last. Sadly, this is the last year.
Adios, Pac-12.
and I think, I think Utah can still win the Pac-12 again this year. So, and playing at Salt Lake City, Utah is a tough place to play. The crowd is on top of you, and the altitude as well. So, and Florida just didn't look like they were right. They didn't look like they were ready for that game. I mean, they had months and months to prepare for this. And I don't know, they're going to have to fix a lot of things if they want to be relevant again.
Yeah, I would think I could understand if they took the Greyhound from Gainesville to Salt Lake City with 193 stops each way, but they didn't. Inexcusable that they were not ready. Ken Capps, you in your position, Football Writers Association of America, Masters from Northwestern, you cover a lot of games, and the stories behind the scenes. That's what makes college football so special. And I say this like I was in Auburn last weekend. It's a record crowd for the UMass game. A lot of people I think had never heard of UMass. They're going to see Auburn. People forget this about college football versus the NFL. Right. In college, you're graduating people, thousands of them every year. Then they get married. They have families. That's your annuitization of your fan base. And the people on the 3 city blocks up there in New York City don't seem to get that. And the connection, the temporal, the spiritual connection. I go back to the great writers, the fugitive poets in the 1920s from Vanderbilt. Bo, you're familiar with them.
Yeah. Fitzgerald, he was there in the 20s. Hey, Bo was there in the 20s.
I was there in the 20s. I was there with
my dad was born in 28. Flannery O'Connor, the great writers. But Ken, what you're so good at, you're in Tuscaloosa. You're not there to write about the demise of college football. When you get on McFarland Boulevard, going up University Boulevard to Bryant-Denny Stadium and the Walk of Champions up there on the Strip, this is a celebration of the game of 2 of the most tradition-rich schools in college football history. What is not to like about this?
Man, I am so excited. And,
I can tell.
I'm very lucky. I'm sitting here at the kitchen table of my cousin-in-laws in Tuscaloosa, and last night, my wife Laura and my son Austin is also here, and we're very lucky to be staying here in this beautiful house about 2 miles from the stadium. And in fact, right after we finish this show, we're going to go down. We're going to go down to the campus, and I'm gonna start working on some stories. But it was so interesting last night. It was so quiet here in Tuscaloosa, and it really was. It's like the night before a hurricane, where everything is so still. You know what that's like, Jerry.
Yeah.
I mean, today this place is going to go just nuts, and it's going to be so crazy. And as we were getting ready to, we're old people. We were going home kind of early last night, and right as we were coming out of this place, this big white van shows up, and out piles about 20 Texas fans, all decked out in their orange and white, and just so Texas, so raising hell and ready to do more. And of course, they've got they don't have a van from Hertz or anything. I mean, they've got like this custom, like a limousine van, and that's why people get mad at Texas and hate Texas, because they ride around in those things. But yeah, it's going to be so much fun, and like I said, there's so many different storylines here.
Yeah.
One of them is going to be I like to talk about later is between Milroe and Ewers. Golly, people don't even know how far they go back, and the interesting story basically here it is. Yeah, Milroe committed to Texas under Tom Herman and was a Tom Herman recruit for almost a year. Okay, he's from Katy, Texas, so he's a Texas high school star, 4-star. Well, then Mr. Ewers, who's a 5-star recruit from Southlake, Texas, which is, as you like to say, Rob, in the Metroplex.
There you go.
See, Bo is not even in the Metroplex. Okay.
Yeah, Jerry, he's way north.
The Oakleplex.
He lives so close to WinStar. All he has to do is walk across the bridge, to the casino. But anyway, so Ewers from Southlake commits to Texas. Well, then Sark gets Milroe to flip to Alabama. Okay. Well, then, the plot thickens. Wow. Ewers goes, drops his commitment to Texas and goes to Ohio State.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so then Casey Thompson is the quarterback at Texas, who's now back reunited with Tom Herman. And so now you've got these two somehow, somewhere. Then Ewers comes back to Texas from Ohio State. Milroe hangs in there at Alabama and is now the starting quarterback. This will be his second start of his career tomorrow. And so by fate, by hook, by crook, by the way college football works, you've got these two Texas kids that are going to face each other in Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Yeah.
I just think that is fascinating.
Yeah.
Fascinating how this all came together. And that's what college football is all about. I mean, you would never have thought in a million years in 2020, which is when this whole saga began, that these two Texas kids would be right down the street here at Bryant-Denny tomorrow night, 6:00 prime time. And it's going to be a battle of titans. I mean, Milroe, the incredible runner, great passer, but incredible runner. And you've got Ewers, who's the, prolific passer. And hopefully we'll start connecting on those long passes like Sark has wanted him to do for 2 years, or at least last year for sure. But still hasn't done it. So, tomorrow's going to be a proving ground for both of those young guys, because remember, Ewers is only a sophomore.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. These are still young college kids.
Yeah, they really are. Jerry, looking at that angle on these quarterbacks, that's the most important position in football, college or pro. Jerry Kerby, from what you see out of college football, is the position that strong? And we talked about, yesterday when I read you what Franz Beard said, there's like 8 quarterbacks starting in the Pac-12 this year. And it's so tragic and all of them are going to be in the NFL. Are you a big Michael Penix fan? I mean, which is the best NFL? There's Caleb Williams. I don't like the painting his fingernails, but that's another story. But who's your best pick? Because it is so frustrating that Boris Karloff or George Kliavkoff, whatever, just did in the Pac-12. I mean, but Larry Scott gave him a really good head start. He got the ball in the red zone. Trust me.
I had Penix Jr. At the end of the season, my dark horse for Heisman this year. But my best quarterback coming out of college this year, and should be the number one pick in the draft if they need a quarterback, of course, is Drake May from North Carolina. I mean, he's already NFL ready already. So yes, he is. Caleb Williams. He wants to pick his own NFL team he wants to go to. He said he doesn't want to go to a bad team, and
how it works.
And he has character issues like painting the fingernails, and I just don't think he's going to be a very good NFL model for the young kids. For that.
I agree. I totally agree with you on that. And how he acted after y'all were talking about Tulane and USC. I was at the Cotton Bowl last year, and how he acted after the game, pretty much a sore loser. And it was not good character. And I totally agree with you on that. And he could have been and here he's won the Heisman, for Pete's sake. Have some class, man. He didn't come to the post-game press conference. There was a seat for him right there, and they had to rearrange everything to get and round up another player to take his place to talk to the media. I think he might have came out way later, but I mean that's who everybody wanted to talk to. Was him.
Yeah.
And, but he wasn't there. So I agree with you. I do agree that Penix is good. I agree with you on Drake May. That's our old friend from Texas, Mac Browne, who, as you know, just won his 100th game at North Carolina and is the first coach to win 100 games with two programs, Texas and North Carolina. And yes, when I watched Drake May the other night against South Carolina, I thought he could go play, for the Patriots right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Jerry, I like that pick. And also, I don't know Mac Browne, but that's one coach I would absolutely love to have on this show. He's from isn't he from Cookeville, Tennessee, gentlemen?
Yes.
Oh,
okay. All right, look, if Jerry, if you can hang on a few more minutes with us before we go into hour number 2, I'm going to take a quick break right now from one of our new sponsors we're so proud to have, and we're going to be right back. We got Ken Capps, Football Writers Association of America. This is what I love, the great writers. You cannot get these stories anywhere else. Bo Carter, we got the Oracles of Delphi. Jerry Kerby, this is fun, man, but we'll be right back in 1 minute, hour number 2.
Unbelievably, every 2 minutes in our communities, a child is either bought or sold for sex. I am Ari Dickey, board member for the Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition. Join me and millions of others in our fight against human trafficking and for its victims by helping to educate the most vulnerable among us, our middle and high school students. Go to nhtcoalition.org, become a partner, and help keep our families safe, because none of God's children are for sale.
Rob Browne back here with this distinguished panel. We've got the missing man formation. Here comes Jerry Kerby. Jerry Kerby with us right now up in Clarksville, Tennessee. Ken Capps in Tuscaloosa, and Bo Carter, Carrollton, Texas, up there near the Oklahoma border. Ken, and Bo, both of y'all, and Jerry, you and I see this, and I've been in the locker room a lot after games. Ken, when you go in the locker room after a game and the quarterback like Caleb Williams wasn't there, and I remember Cam Newton was pretty PO'd, to be fair. He's got a statue at Auburn after they lost the Super Bowl. It was Cam versus Peyton. That was a tough one for me because I'm pulling for Auburn, but it was Peyton's last game, and I'm a big fan of his too. He's married to a Memphis girl from New Orleans. Went to Isidore Newman. But Ken, when you go in the locker room, you look at the character of a Tim Tebow. We all remember the loss to Ole Miss in 2008, and then a guy that doesn't even show up. You can't just pick and choose your battles.
Correct.
Sometimes in life, you've got to be disciplined enough to do the things that you don't like doing. I've always been taught this by every coach I've ever had or teacher or mentor, and every kid I've ever coached, I've said this: I'm going to make you comfortable in hell. I'm going to get you out of your comfort zone and make you do the things that you hate. Squeeze your hand as hard as you can. Now squeeze it a little harder because everybody else out here wants to win too. Bo, Ken, I'll start with you, Ken. You go in the locker room like that. What does that say?
Well, let me give you the opposite example of Caleb Williams. Max Duggan last year at TCU.
Yeah. Fear the frog.
When they lost, go Frogs. Fear the frog. That's my froggy wife, Laura. After they lost to Kansas State in the Big 12 championship game, and you remember how hard Duggan played and just left it. I mean, the old cliche, I hate cliches, but leaving everything on the field, he really did that night.
Yeah.
He came, okay, so they lost, okay? Guess what? Here's the wildest thing, because everybody was in the losing team's media session first and not the winning team, Kansas State. And Duggan came out there bawling his eyes out. I've still got the interview on my video camera that's right here in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, bawling his eyes out and going before the media. He was so mentally and physically drained and so upset. And he said, I've let my team down. I've let our fans down. And I mean, he just couldn't quit. He just couldn't quit crying. And for him to come out after that game, like he was supposed to, because just like Caleb Williams in the Cotton Bowl, everybody wanted to talk to Max Duggan. He came out, faced the heat, and everybody respected him for coming out and doing that. And he gave great answers. He answered every question. He didn't smart off to anybody. He wasn't snarky to anybody.
Yeah.
And I already thought he's a great young man.
Yeah.
But I gained a lot more, even more respect for him after that 20-minute news conference, because he stepped out after losing such a hard game and faced the music, just like we're talking about, Rob.
Yeah. Bo, what's a cool story about Max Duggan is he shares a common hometown with another one of the great athletes of our lifetimes, Roy Munson.
Yep.
The great bowler from Kingpin, remember, from Ocelot, Iowa.
Yes. Yeah, in Council Bluffs, right across from one of Ken and my favorite places, Omaha, over there too. But
the West Memphis of Omaha.
That's right. Yeah, with the horse racing track owned by Paul Bryant Jr. there, so they're quite a good Alabama game. By the way, a little sideline. We've always got some trivia for you, Rob. But
I love it.
I'm glad Ken's not staying at a hotel price in Alabama for tonight and tomorrow.
Oh my God!
Starting at $850 and a ticket on the StubHub was showing yesterday. Ticket anywhere from the goal line to goal line, $3,300 minimum.
Is that right?
Wow. Glad Ken, you're sitting in the press box. You could sell your media pass for about $5,000 tomorrow. But
man,
don't do it.
I know it. Well, I've got my cousin-in-law Wayne standing over here, and he just handed me make sure I get a shot. A Roll Tide cupcake. So I'm hoping I'm hoping that I'll get to eat this here between 9 and 10 o'clock. And I think they may wait for me. We're going to go to Ramajama's for breakfast, which is the really cool place. Have y'all been there?
Mallory, my oldest one here, Mallory's here with the granddaughter, and Mallory graduated from Alabama. When I remarried Audrey, I picked her up on waivers. She's still a good person. Mallory, they're going to Rammer Jammers. You ever been there before in Tuscaloosa? Yes, of course she has. Yes, they went across the street, by the way, last night to the Floribama, I might add. They're having a 3 nights in a row bull riding contest at the Floribama across the street from us, and they got in kind of late. Not sure what time. And but one thing though, I will say this: that is all the money there is benefiting St. Jude Children's Research Hospital in Memphis.
Right.
The Floribama, folks, it's been smashed by hurricanes. It's been leveled. It's been redone. But the ghost of Kenny Stabler and Jimmy Buffett will always. James W. Buffett. I got a picture of his fraternity composite, class of '64. He was a freshman at Auburn, Sigma Pi, and it says James W. Buffett, McGill High School, Mobile. And it says out there, someone I think embellished this when it says they send you off to college to gain a little knowledge, and all you want to do is learn how to score. You can't make that stuff. That's one of his greatest.
That's great writing. Forget about me and Bo. That's great writing right there.
Yeah, I love it.
No,
Jerry,
you know what I know this is way off the subject, but I love the Floribama so much because it's got so much history behind it. But what I really want to do is, I'm a big fan of the Army-Navy game.
Yeah.
And have been several times in person. But I read last year that at the Pensacola Air Station, which is just right down the road from you, and the home of the
Blue Angels.
Blue Angels, yes. And of course, there's a lot of Blue Angels memorabilia hanging up there at the Floribama. They have a tailgate at the Pensacola Air Station for the Army-Navy game.
Wow.
I so want to see if I can go cover that this year. I think it would be so cool to watch the Army-Navy game with the naval aviators of the Blue Angels in Pensacola. Wouldn't that be a cool story?
Jerry, listen, we were talking about this yesterday. One time about 7 years ago, a bunch of us were down on the beach here for fall break here at the Bella Luna. And about 5:30 on a Monday afternoon, we heard this. Looked up about 100 feet above our head. Here come the Blue Angels coming down the beach. And it was they were coming from a weekend show somewhere. And it absolutely knocked us off our feet. And then they go about a mile and take a hard left and go across Wolf Bay, Pensacola Naval Air Station. If that doesn't make you proud to be an American, you do not have blood in your veins. And Ken, I got to tell you, I think that will be a cool story to go watch on the carrier deck with a bunch of naval aviators, the Army-Navy game. Jerry Kerby, that we talk about football. We talk about a lot of these stars and all. But at the end of the day, that game right there embodies why we love college football. Just like I think every freshman class in college should be required viewing of the great documentary by my friend Norman Jetmanson and David Cruz, who spent over 6 years, released it last year, Sewanee 1899, 5 wins in 6 days at Texas A&M, at Tulane, at LSU, and at Ole Miss in Memphis. And they got home 5 games in 6 days, and on the 7th day, they rested the Warriors of the Mountain. But Jerry Kerby, how about that story, man? I mean, give Ken and Bo, they both are national writers. They voted for the Heisman. They do it all. What's the great story you would like to see written? I'm putting some comments on here that people text me, but that's one that says college football needs the great writers to tell the stories.
Like past. I mean, I liked when I was growing up. I liked Tommy Frazier. I mean,
yeah. Oh God.
I'm sorry, Florida Gator fans. But that run, like he broke like 5-6 tackles. I mean, that was the Heisman moment right there,
Yeah.
I think Tommy Frazier was one of the best Nebraska quarterbacks ever had because he could run the triple option, and he could throw over the top of the defense and accurate as well.
Yeah.
So, and then another one would be Tim Tebow. That would probably be one of the best stories, you know.
Well, and I tell you, Jerry, that's what I like to cover, and that's what I have so much fun doing now. Is like tomorrow, I'm going to be, covering the game, the X's and O's, and doing the post game with Saban and Sark. But I like doing the stories like I'm talking about, the people stories, And I'm not, I've been a reporter most of my life, and I've done plenty of, the corruption story. Not about college football, but I've done plenty of news stories about, corruption and, whatever else, bad stories you see on the 6 o'clock news all the time. And what I said I was going to do when I was going to start covering college football here in my latter years is I'm going to do nothing but good stories. Mm-hmm. Okay, that if I was sitting in my living room, what would I want to see? And that's why I've been so fascinated to want to do this thing, to watch the Army-Navy game with naval aviators. I could flip it around too. If the Navy doesn't want to help me, I'll call the Army and see, and see if I can go to West Point, or somewhere. And I've also wanted to always do because I have to confess, I am a Texas grad and a Northwestern grad, but I'm a big live mascot fan. I would love to do a story on the goat at Navy and the donkey from Army. Do you know that the goat from Navy comes from the hill country of Texas? So I'm not kidding. This is true.
I love it.
This is true.
That's awesome.
I like doing, and so I'm going to be doing some stories today and looking for stories today around campus and everything that are about people and the good people of. I know where Earl Campbell is. He's still making his sausage in Tyler, Texas. Yeah. But those are the kind of stories that would you agree, Jerry, that people want to see? And that's a good point. Where are they now? I know where Earl Campbell is. He's doing great. Billy Sims, we could find him. Mm-hmm. I tell you who else I found in the last 2 weeks. Barry Switzer, the king.
Yes.
Is living in Dallas, Texas. Can you believe it?
Yeah.
I'm going to try to get an interview with him before the Texas OU game.
Holy cow. This is 39th straight Red River shootout coming up for you?
Yes. Since 1978. So however many that is.
Wow. That's more than that. That's 45. Wow. Bo, and again, Billy Sims, I remember, was from Hooks, Texas.
Yes.
He was 25 or so when he was a senior, I think. But Earl Campbell was from Tyler, Texas.
Yes, sir.
Bo, and I'm getting a lot of comments. I'm trying to write these things simultaneously. My assistant, Mildred, is over there playing with the granddaughter on the floor in the bouncy pen. But I'm not sure who's having more fun, the baby or Mildred. But Bo, this is what I love. And Jerry, man, it's cool having you on here with us because you guys you want to see the setup. It's like Elvis when he used to watch the local news. He had the national news. He had all the networks.
Yeah.
He's got TVs and monitors. I think he's got the 22 where you can watch the game like a coach can and break it down. But Bo, this is so critical. We bring a lot of young writers on here. Your experience, and Jerry, to put things in perspective, he was sports information director at Mississippi State for 12 years. And then in the Southwest Conference office, I like to say he put them to bed, not him personally. I think some overzealous alumni and some chicanery and some tomfoolery and whatever, but they had fun. I'll admit we took a few liberties, but the decorum prohibits me telling you exactly what happened. But Bo, what's your gut feeling right now? Ken brought it up earlier, what ESPN's doing. And to me, if the sports guy, if the announcers, the play-by-play and the color guy, if you don't have Brad Nessler and Gary Danielson actually at your stadium, it's really like you're not on TV. It's like a security camera and you're watching, in the back room with Paul Blart, like looking up there going, let's check in here. Well, let me finish my sandwich.
Right.
Rob, you're exact. And COVID brought it on, when they couldn't bring.
Oh, don't get me started.
I know. And then, and what I like you're saying, the quality of it. So, Ken, you and Jerry, you guys have heard this. when they're doing the games from the living room, some of them aren't really in sound protected areas or whatever. You hear echoes back there behind, or the kids going back there to get a snack or something. Now they're pretty good. I think they shut the doors out of their broadcast room.
Yeah.
But it's just, and then now you've got the Charter Spectrum versus ESPN. And boy, that is going to be a buddy of mine that's really up on the media, and Ken, and Jerry, you guys know about this too. If Charter wins out in that thing, it's going to set a really interesting precedent for the rest of these ESPN versus the cable operators or whatever. Because if they can get away with it, man, you've got Fox contracts and everything else that could just blow up. So, man, there's a major situation going on there. So, Rob, we got to get some of our legal beagles to settle that, I hope.
Yeah. Jerry, let me throw it back at you. Tommy Frazier, Bradenton, Florida, Manatee High School. Not only did he bounce off of 5 or 6 guys, I think everybody on the field had at least one shot at him, and he ran over them, at least some of them twice, just for good measure. But that was the 62-24 game. And remember that game, all these people were picking Florida because of their speed. And I said, man, the Black Watch defense of Nebraska, that 95 team, that may have been the greatest Nebraska team ever. And I think when you talk about LSU's 2019 team as being the best team ever, you got to say the 95 Nebraska team, because I remember Jarquez Green, wide receiver, 5'9", 172-pounder out of Fort Valley, Georgia, Peachtree High School, was hit on the kickoff and crumbled like an accordion, just going in. But 62-24, the next year, Florida comes back. Jerry, let me ask you another one. Who, in your opinion, is the greatest player outside of the quarterback position defensively? Is there another Derek Thomas, another Takeo Spikes out there in the linebacking world, somebody on defense now? Because all the rock star status is being reserved for offensive players. And I know there's a bunch of good ones, but who's your best defensive rock star out there? I'm talking could play lead guitar if Tom Petty was still alive.
I don't know.
You're speechless.
I know.
Let me write that down. Jerry is speechless.
I really don't study the defensive side of the ball.
That's my point. That's my point.
Guy.
Yeah. No, and that's what's so funny is that everything is on the offense now, and we think about defense. Is there a Tony Casillas out there? Is there a Tracy Rocker? I mean, is there a Reggie White out there, guys? I mean, but the offense is so prolific across the country. But as soon as we think it's all one way, guys, they go in the other door, don't they?
Well, and look at it this way. I think tomorrow's game, Bama, Texas, the defenses are, once again, it's going to be, that's another whole, soap opera of this game. Alabama always has a great defense. You guys know that. But the secondary is kind of banged up. This is the best Texas defense in 10 years. Amazing, and it goes back to Sark, and he's always talking about big humans. And, where did he get that from? Alabama.
Yeah.
And on both sides of the ball, both offense and defense on the lines. And so, the Texas defense is stout. And it's been a while. It's been a minute, as people like to say.
Yeah.
So, if they can shut down Milroe and his runs, that's going to be a key to a game. I think Jerry would agree. The other side is, here's another little piece of soap opera for you. Guess who is a defensive analyst now on the Alabama staff? You guys know?
Oh, golly, I know. I heard it the other day. No.
Former Texas head coach Charlie Strong.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. Yes, he is.
Is working for Kevin Steele as a defensive analyst.
Yeah. Out of Batesville, Arkansas, Charlie Strong. Great defensive mind. Now, this is a bit of trivia.
The terrible coach at Texas.
Well, here's an interesting bit of trivia that came in. Bevo, of course, we know the mascot, who got into it with the UGA, the Georgia Bulldogs. lives at an Aggie-owned ranch outside in Liberty Hill, Texas, outside of Austin.
He lives in Liberty Hill for sure. I'm not sure if it's an Aggie ranch, but yeah, he lives in a beautiful ranch. Yes.
Yeah, but I like the fact. Anyway, do these two people sound familiar? I'm gonna throw this one at y'all. Thinking about the national narrative coming out toward college football, that the portal and NIL would ruin it. Do these two people sound familiar?
But I wanted to sit in the no smoking section. Excuse me, we're Doug and Wendy Weiner.
I mean, you know who they were sitting next to on that skit? A little known actor at the time, a short man, not a midget, but a short man, Danny DeVito.
Oh my God.
What a nice guy. But I mean, let me say this. This is what you just talked about, Charlie Strong. And also Zach Mettenberger is on the staff now at Alabama, out of Winder, Georgia, who was a roommate with, I guess, Aaron Murray, maybe. Yeah, I think he was roommates with Aaron Murray out of Plant City, Florida, who started at Georgia 10, 11, 12, and 13, is now on CBS. But, guys, the thing about college football, and you talk about Earl Campbell, that guy came on in 74, just a legend. And you think about Alabama, where do you start with, when you make a team of the century, all these teams around the country? I'm going to throw this one to whoever wants to answer it first. But the Heisman Trophy, when did the Heisman Trophy change to the most prolific offensive player on the most high-scoring team versus the player who was the most valuable to his team and made everybody around him play better? What was the timeline? Can anybody point to a time when that just completely changed?
Bo, you were there in those times.
Yeah, 1930. That's right. Well, hey, Rob, you had players playing both ways till like 1963 or whatever, too. So and then amazingly, Woodson won it as one of the last offensive players from Michigan. So, but no, I think part of it's of course, all the former Heisman Trophy winners vote, and then just the demographic of the sports writers, as Ken and Jerry pointed out too. Offense is the sexy part of football, and the defensive guys. I may be wrong. You may never see a defensive tackle ever win the Heisman. They're just not unless he has 21 sacks and they shut out 12 straight opponents or whatever. Yeah. But one quick one too, but not one quick rabbit trail. Ken will love it talking about Bevo. A friend of ours from Dallas was telling the story. They kept A&M's mascot Reveille is taken home for times during the summer or whatever. One of the Corps of Cadets kids was from Austin. Reveille got loose somewhere out at a branch in Austin.
Oh, Lord.
People are trying to figure out, what are we going to tell the people at A&M that Reveille was, they kidnapped the mascots off and on, but how are we going to explain this to people?
I love it.
Reveille got loose in Austin. We can't find him.
Boy, and who's ever keeping Reveille, that's going to be a career-ending move for that person.
How about the Corps of Cadets? But
how about this? Scott Trout, John and Betty Baker own the ranch where Bevo lives. Betty Baker, a Texas grad and former twirler, never imagined their love of Longhorns would one day turn her into a mascot mom. Let me just say this: the Texas Longhorn, gentlemen. No one eats them. I guess they're a decorative cow, kind of for the looks.
Steer. They're not a cow.
They're steer. There's a steer. Yeah. See there, Jerry. I've got to know my cows better. But let me go back to this one real quick. Anybody here? I'll give anybody. Jerry, if you can pronounce this name, Datnguyen. I can pronounce it because I know the Vietnamese. I know how they pronounce it just because I've heard it before. But you know how to pronounce that name, Jerry?
Yeah, it's Datnguyen.
Datnguyen.
Yeah.
Like wind, yeah.
Played
like
at A&M, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I believe he played for the Cowboys too.
Yeah, Cowboys, yeah.
Linebacker, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jerry, and let me ask you this. You're really good at talking about the transition from the college game to the NFL. Is college is the NFL dictating to college, though, what kind of offenses and defenses to run? Or does the NFL have to just take what the colleges provide them? Who controls the narrative? This is an interesting debate.
To me right now, I think the new era that we live in now, I think it's mostly in about 5-10 more years. I think the college offenses are going to go to the NFL. You're going to see a lot of air raid. And right now you're already seeing the spread. So that came from a college as well. So I truly believe the college offense, the college is telling the NFL to run this offense, but the NFL business is translating back to the college, like the NIL. It's mostly like a GM. It's like a GM how to run your college program now. So that's where I lie at those topics.
Yeah, and Ken, you talked about that the college game. Let's do this. Let's take a quick break. I'm up against a break here. I'm going to take a quick break, and we're going to be right back. I will say this: the quarterbacks. This is a good point for discussion. It'd be a great story. Ken, I'm going to throw it to you when we come back. I'm your editor of the newspaper or whatever, and I'm saying go write a story about how much influence what the NFL is doing at the quarterback position is having down to college and high school and beyond. We'll be right back. Hour number 2. We got another 30 minutes left on this Friday with a great panel. It's the Oracles of Delphi, the great writers, right after this.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Browne back here with you right now on this Friday, man. This is fun. Ken, let's go get that story on the quarterback position. NFL top down.
Yeah, well, and I agree with Jerry. It's been the college game that has been directing the NFL, especially with the spread. You know where the spread offense began? In the great state of Texas. The spread's been running in Texas since the 80s. And, it's been amazing. And then the colleges in Texas started running it along with the air raid, as Jerry pointed out, Mike Leach and company. And, of course, Hugh Mung and that crew. But Mike Leach is the one that perfected it up in Tech. And but the spread has been run by high schools in Texas for 2 decades at least. Well, then those quarterbacks go to colleges all over the country, and they start running the spread and the zone read. Of course, who'd ever known what the zone read was? That all came out of Texas. And so now what do they run in the NFL? The spread and the zone read. And guess what? They work at Highland Park High School in Dallas, Texas, and they work at last night the Detroit Lions are running the zone read, and it works everywhere. So and those quarterbacks like any one of those guys. Who am I? Matt Stafford. That's a great example.
Yeah.
Highland Park, Texas. He's been running the spread and the zone read, since he was in 7th grade in Dallas, Texas. He gets to the pros. This is old hand for him. He's been doing this for 15 years already. So that's why I think that it's the in the pros, how they are. They don't like. I like that. Amen, brother.
Someone just texted that to me, so I just put it on. They don't know how to do it on the screen. I'm like, I'm just relaying these.
But it really is true. And and you know how the pros hate to change. They hate change, but they've had to adapt because from 3 yards in a cloud of dust. Because the high school and the college game have changed, and when those players get drafted and come out, those are the offenses that they're running. Would you agree, Jerry?
Absolutely.
Jerry, I mean, it's hard to believe. I mean, Texas again, so much synergy. It all does start in Texas on the high school level. And Jerry, they have the Texas High School Football Coaches Convention every year in the summer. Like in San Antonio, there'll be 15,000 head coaches and assistants there, and it travels all over the country. Jerry, one of the things that I've noticed when I'm around you is you break down plays, and you come up with plays and whatever like that. What's the shelf life of an offense in a league like the SEC when you're paying coordinators what you're paying them? Their job is to solve those mysteries, those riddles. Give me the average shelf life of a new offense or a trick play or two.
I think, in my opinion, I think you gotta be creative every year. You gotta throw some new wrinkles in because what's on tape is on tape. So you gotta. I mean, the new football we live in, we gotta be more creative. Like Kansas City Chiefs, that's why they have so much success in the NFL. It's because they're creative and they bring in new wrinkles every year. It's eye candy stuff that you got to watch for, and that could throw people off, and they could be running something else.
Well, and Ken, as he mentioned, Bo, let me throw this one to you. You've been writing a long time covering college football, and the coaches come and go, the names change. But still, football is it's a physical game. We're not trying to make it soft by giving these, better helmets and everything like that. We're just trying to keep it going. People forget, and I talked to my dad about this yesterday. In 1906, 19 college football players died. And the mother of the Georgia football player who died on the football field, they went to the Georgia state legislature, and the governor called a special convention at the state capitol in Atlanta. And that on the docket was the end of college football. But the mother of the slain player pled and said that's not what he would have wanted. And we made the game safer. I think Teddy Roosevelt got involved.
Teddy Roosevelt, yes.
And the NCAA came about.
That's how it started.
So we always seem to think that the crisis that we're dealing with now, it's the worst it's ever been. Man, we've been here before, man. 100 years ago, the Southern Conference had 23 members. And 10 years later, the SEC was founded. Oh, my God, what are we going to do? On Doug and Wendy Weiner. It's like Pat on Saturday Night Live when he went to the bathroom. Men's, women's, we don't know. We never knew. I don't know, but
we still don't know.
We still don't know. Maybe we don't want to know. But Bo, let's talk about that. The history, it's so important. But every freshman should watch Sewanee 1899 to realize what those guys went through, why we love this game, and why it gets better, and why it's so damn important to load up the family truckster and load up all the kids and friends and neighbors and just go to the games. Doesn't matter who you're playing, you're going to celebrate the game and the people and the relationships which you will build, which will last forever and ever, happily ever after.
And Rob, Ken alluded to earlier too. You got the NIL, they got the transfer portal and things that are going on. It's funny how cyclically it all kind of comes around and evens out after a while. Ken and I laughed right now. SMU is just 40 years ahead of its time on the NIL in the 1980s. They just
See,
a
they
little
got him
over
the death
anxious
penalty.
there.
They only got him the death penalty.
Yeah, exactly.
And Rob and Bo knows this too. The other book that people should read is Jim Dent's book, The Junction Boys, about Paul Bear Bryant taking his team out to Junction, Texas. Yep, Junction Boys. There you go. Taking the boys out to Junction, Texas, which is out in the middle of nowhere in the hill country. And
lovely place.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's, if you're from Texas, you like it, but most people go out there and think it was like, hell.
Yeah.
And took those guys out there and just worked them so hard. This is in the 50s, and just worked their asses off, pardon my French. And they came back and just started winning and winning championships and everything. And Jim Dent's a heck of a sports writer. And that is a great, great book about college football history and about Coach Bryant. That is, I reread it every couple of years. And of course it was made into a movie, and just a great book.
Well, and it did become a movie. And I think all the actors that they used in that movie, they came from Australia.
They filmed it in Australia.
That's south of Austin, isn't it?
Well, Junction looks a lot like Australia.
Yeah, the landscape of the moon. And Jerry Kerby, talking about all these offenses that are run in the NFL, the college, the high school, the middle school. It starts with the little kids that are running this stuff now. But you know what I'm seeing, Jerry, with the advent and the constant evolution, these 7-on-7 camps, the big guys, the linemen, they're just kind of put out to pasture. No, no pun intended, no disrespect to Bevo, but Jerry, you like to draw up plays. Throw a couple of them out there. I know Jerry will get on Twitter and send plays out to NFL coaches. I mean, you never know who's listening or watching, but Jerry, you've got a mind that's it's like an Intel, computer chip.
Yeah. Patrick Taylor from Georgia High School, he taught me about the air raid concepts and stuff like that. He shattered a lot of records in the state of Georgia, and he worked with Hell Mummy and Mike Leach. Rest in peace. I learned a lot from him. Like, my favorite play is always I'm running the same play every time, and then we're just going to switch it up how the defense is. But how he taught me is it's open grass concept. You find the open grass, wherever the open grass is, and then you pre-snap, and you should know who's going to be open the way the defense is and stuff like that. So my favorite play when I come in, I'm running 6, which is a vertical route. And if I see man-to-man coverage, I'm leaving it. But if I have empty boxes, I'm going inside zone. And if I have blitzes, like all-out blitz on the front line, then I'm running Y cross routes and mesh. And if they all come in, then I'm going to run a screen pass. I mean, the area is like the easiest offense to run. Like, and the coaches always told me, keep it simple. That is the most simplest offense ever.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Bo, that's a funny thing. You've interviewed a lot of players and coaches over the years. When the freshman gets to college, they talk about how fast everything is. And then the sign that they're getting it is the game is slowing down.
Yes.
How many major paradigm shifts have you seen with offenses in your career covering college football?
Oh, hey, Ken and I remember when the T formation was.
No, you remember. Remember.
My dad remembers the single wing.
When we were playing youth league football, man, we ran the T formation. There was no wing back. And then the single wing, honestly, was it's the early version of the Wildcat. That was like Tennessee ran that till 1962. And this true story, Steve Spurrier was from, son of a Methodist minister, was in Johnson City, Tennessee as a senior, and didn't want to go to Tennessee to run the single wing because he'd get beaten. He would get hammered on every other play, running and passing. So his loss was Florida's gain.
Well, Ken, answer that on top of that. That single wing, the box, the wing tee, that was the real offense. They wore long sleeve jerseys too.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, when Bo started covering football, they didn't even wear helmets.
That's right.
Barely wore shoes, Bo, thank you for letting me kid you all the time.
We love it.
Bo and I are good friends, so we can kid around with each other. But you're absolutely right, and that's what's so funny about this whole. We were talking about the wishbone. Coach Royal and Emory Ballard taught Oklahoma the wishbone, and then Oklahoma wins all these national championships. They go out and teach Bear Bryant the wishbone, and you know what happened there? It's like, quit giving this stuff away, man.
Trade secrets.
Well,
but see, that's the way it was back then. They were all friends. They were all friends. Nobody on God's green earth today would ever think about doing that.
Oh my God. And that's the thing. And you've talked about it. And Jerry, you and I, and Ken and Bo, we all have a different perspective on football time frames and what have you, but it's all about the relationships. And these coaches, the fans sometimes, you watch some of these shows, they get a little bit crazy. And I think some of them might get 2 hours of yard time from the institution, wherever they're, confined to. And, but at the end of the day, the interest in football, Jerry, it just gets stronger every year. And I'm looking at these games coming up this weekend. I'll tell you one we have not talked about, Jerry, and you may have a take on this, A&M at Miami.
Ooh, yes.
No pressure at all on either of these coaches, especially Jimbo and Bobby Petrino, who I think is going to call the plays, Jerry.
Yep.
Well, you never know.
Two struggling institutions right now. I mean, trying to rebuild this year and stuff like that. And I'm telling you what, Jimbo got lucky last year when he beat LSU because that pretty much saved his job. But I'm telling you, Urban Meyer's peeking over his shoulder because I'm telling you, if Texas A&M has a bad year, I'm leaning that Urban Meyer's gonna take over.
That would be scary. I don't think he's coming back into coaching though.
I mean, with that roster,
even A&M's not that dumb.
But you gotta realize, I mean, look at, Urban Meyer. I mean, he's egotistical. He has ego issues.
Oh, you're right about that.
But here's the thing, though. When he went at Florida, he when he takes a job, he looks at the roster. You know what I'm saying? If it's a championship roster, I'm taking this job. I'm only going to be here for 3 to 5 years. That's my plan. And I'm going somewhere else, or I'm going to retire. That's the way he runs his programs.
Yeah,
I think Urban is making too much money at Fox, sitting around pontificating, getting to say what he wants. I don't think he wants to go back to that. And that's what I wanted to touch on this. What Rob was saying about Mac Browne. I got to know Mac pretty well when he was at Texas, and he is the most amazing guy, the nicest guy that you'll ever meet to every fan, whether you're a bazillion-dollar donor or the guy that gives $5 to the program. He's got an amazing penchant for being able to remember some tiny fact about you that that the next time he sees you, he'll say, "Hey, did your son ever graduate from Brentwood Elementary School?" And you're like, "How does he remember that?"
Yeah.
And he still comes back to Austin. His wife's name is Sally. She was a real estate agent in Austin, and everybody wanted for Sally to sell or help you buy your house when he was there. And but they still come back to Austin and do a fundraiser every year for cancer or some worthy charity with Matthew McConaughey.
Wow.
And I'd say I just bring this up, Jerry, because I'm talking about Urban Meyer. I mean, when Mac went to ESPN, he had the He had the best job. He was so good at that job. He's making $1 million a year. He sounds great. He looks great. He didn't have to go back to North Carolina at all. And I was kind of worried about him when he went back. I go, man, you don't have to do this. And look, he's come back. He's been successful
twice.
Mm-hmm. And but he's got a whole different demeanor, 180 degrees from Urban Meyer. And I mean, I tell you, if I walk down the street right now and ran into Mac Browne, he would remember to call me Ken and ask me something about my kids, Ken and Caroline. I 100% guarantee you. And that's just such a gift. And there are other people that have it too, and other coaches have it, but most of them don't.
Yeah.
And, because another opposite of that was Tom Herman. Tom, when he was at Texas, won't give you the time of day.
Oh yeah, to get scared.
And he really did. Charlie Strong was the same way. He didn't like to talk to fans. And fans, I'm sure it's like this everywhere else too, or a lot of different places, but fans at Texas, they like to be able to touch and feel their coach. They like to be able to get a selfie with their coach, and would always do that. Sark is still getting used to that. He's gotten a lot better about it because he was kind of shy when he got here too. And you go back go back to the relationships you were talking about.
Yeah.
Sark and Saban have a fantastic relationship.
Yeah.
All week long in their news conferences, it's been the Mutual Admiration Society. I'm just so glad to see that because, as we know, Sark and Jimbo don't exactly send each other Christmas cards anymore.
Yeah. And you talk about Mac Browne being able to recall something about you and your family. I also remember a funny story about former Speaker of the House, Tip O'Neill from Massachusetts. So, but he would recall something. He would always say like, how's your dad's back? Or how's your mom's back? Everybody's got back problems, especially if they watch too much football on the couch. But that's why you got to go to the games. But this is what, we've got a few minutes left. Great stuff in these stories with college football. And Jerry, some of the information in your head, it's fascinating. You talk about the green spaces, out there on the field, the grass. Mm-hmm. And think about Steve Spurrier. He threw the spots on the field, and your guys had to be in those spots because defensive backs, the old school, they look at the receiver's eyes when they get big. Well, then you teach all your receivers when they're running around to get Popeye, golf ball sized eyes, and then they don't know what to do. You've always got to outthink the competition. And that's what's so cool. What a weekend we've got. I mean, all eyes will be on Tuscaloosa. Auburn's traveling out to California. They got there last night. They're going to be out there. I'm hearing Doug Dean talked about it. There's been a call to action by the hippie communes out there in Berkeley. Hey, let's show those people from Alabama what it's like out here on the West Coast. And so there'll be tree huggers out there. There'll be granola heads. There'll be, the gnarly types. But isn't that what you love about college football? I mean, the crazy fans and everything like that.
Amen.
The mascots, the traditions. I mean, you just can't get any better. And at the end of the day, it's all about the people. Jerry, just in closing comments, I'm going to kind of go around here. We'll do it. Give me your biggest upset, watch, alert, whatever, the game that you like the most in college football. The line can be considered, or just a winner or a loser.
For college?
Yeah.
I really didn't study the let's see here.
One that just jumps out. You don't have to worry about the line. I'm talking about winner or loser.
Can I go? Can you go to somebody else?
Yeah. Ken, give me yours.
I think Colorado beats Nebraska tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And remember what they did in 2001? Wasn't that kind of the beginning of the end of Nebraska's dominant run? Bo Carter?
Yep, it really was. I'm picking the big upset, Vanderbilt 24, Wake Forest 21. And by the way, Mac Browne never missed a class when we were in school together for 2.5 years over there before he transferred, and he was always first one to go up and shake hands with the professor. And he was a good, a great academic. And his grandfather was like one of the greatest coaches in Tennessee high school history. So he has a great, like Ken said, second the motion. He's one of the nicest people you've ever met.
And his brother Watson Browne is awesome too.
Oh yeah,
this is hard.
And he's doing a show with my friend George Plaster up in Nashville now.
Yeah.
And but let me. That's what I love about it. It's the relationships, because after these games, you got to live with these people. I remarried. I got a ball for life. I got Mallory's an Alabama grad. I've got all the rest of my family Auburn. I've got so many different school fan bases all mixed in, but. At the end of the day, I like to close every show by saying most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. Go out. You never know what kind words, kind deeds can do to help people. You got the resources, people. You can't take them with them. You know what George Strait said? They don't put luggage racks on hearses. Make a positive impact. Nobody needs any more selfish, greedy people. We've got Dion. Anyway, but hey
now.
I'm kidding. No, you know what the thing about Dion is? I don't dislike the guy. I just get frustrated sometimes when he talks so much about in the first person, but he's an incredible motivator. And I heard a story the other day about some people that know one of the guys on his staff, and I'm not going to name him. The guy said he's always been very good to me. I think a lot of it might be a public persona and act.
Yes, I agree.
but there's something because y'all know him being from Texas. Everybody in Dallas knows. I know he's alienated some people and whatever like that, but there's something. I will say this: what he's doing is drawing a lot of eyeballs to TV sets for college football. Jerry Kerby, I know I put you on the spot. Give us one game that you think this weekend really jumps out at you, and then we'll let everybody go. But this, by the way, guys, everybody, thanks so much for taking time out of your Friday to join us. Jerry, Bo, Ken, Doug Dean early on. This is awesome stuff.
I got Purdue going into Virginia Tech beating them. I think Purdue. Okay. Purdue looked good, but their defense let them down last week. Little Fresno State came and beat them. And go Hilltoppers.
I love it. Hey, I love it, man. But look, college football, go out no matter where you are, watch the games, go to the games. Ken, be careful out there among the English there. Bo Carter and dang, man, Jerry, this is all. I'm gonna rough it out on the beach today, and hopefully the sun is, like I said, the glare was too strong in the background, but we'll be back on with you tomorrow. We'll leave with this final commercial message, and we'll tag out. But again, thanks everybody for listening. See you tomorrow. You bet.
Thank you.
Unbelievably, every 2 minutes in our communities, a child is either bought or sold for sex. I am R.A. Dickey, board member for the Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition. Join me and millions of others in our fight against human trafficking and for its victims by helping to educate the most vulnerable among us, our middle and high school students. Go to nhtcoalition.org, become a partner, and help keep our families safe, because none of God's children are for sale.